Welcome to Wrestling Games Exhumed. My name is Matt Denton, and as a wrestling fan and gamer, I'm going to marry two of my favorite things together, wrestling and video gaming, by going around digging up games of wrestling's past and throwing them back into the ring for another fight. Good, bad, downright ugly, I'm gonna play them. On this episode, Virtual Pro Wrestling 2. In the last episode, I covered WCW vs. the World. Well, here is one of the direct descendants of that game, Virtual Pro Wrestling 2 on the Nintendo 64. Released in 2000 for the Japanese market, this to the layman looks like a reskin of WrestleMania 2000, just like WCW vs. the World was a reskin of the original Virtual Pro Wrestling game. But there are many differences that make this a worthwhile acquisition and probably one of the finest wrestling games ever created. First things first, the game, unsurprisingly, is almost entirely in Japanese. So I'd like to throw a shout out to Icemaster of GameFAQs.com for the translation guide that I used so I wasn't completely lost. If you've played any AKI wrestling game on the Nintendo 64, you'll be right at home with these controls. The A button is for initiating grapples, and from there you can use either the A or B buttons to attempt to move. Also you can use the D-pad in conjunction with those for a wider range of moves. Grapples come in two flavors. Basic, which is just hitting the A button and grabbing a clinch, or strong grapples, which are initiated by holding the A button. Naturally, you start a match with the weaker grapples, building your way to stronger grapples to appease the ever-present spirit meter. The spirit meter is much easier to read in these games, beginning at a healthy green hue, growing to a red state when you gain enough momentum in a match, or turning blue if you're on the losing end. Once the meter begins flashing red, you can bust out a taunt to enter a finishing move state where you can latch onto a strong grapple and then flick the taunt stick to hit your finisher. This can happen in many different grapple situations, since you can have separate finishes for front and back grapples, front and back corner grapples, and the Irish whip grapples, with the ability to also jump to the top rope and hit a flying finish if you wish to do so. What's even more impressive is the fact that there's a mechanic only brought in for this game, and it's the ability for certain wrestlers to have a move beyond finisher level, such as Mersawood's basic finisher is the Tiger Driver 91, but if you flick the stick one more time once you're in the finishing move mode, you can go into hyperdrive and bust out the Emerald Flosion. This replicates the more legendary grapplers to a T. Other mechanics that make this a different beast from the Western equivalent is the introduction of mixed martial arts wrestling style to complement the MMA rules that can be applied to matches. The main difference is the fact that instead of strong grapples, MMA fighters have an instant takedown, which puts your fighter into a position for an instant ground and pound, where you can either pound your foe into dust or attempt a submission. Also, some MMA fighters absolutely refuse to adhere to the wrestling logic behind Irish whips. If you try it on them, they'll just plant their feet and just go, eh. There are a number of match types that go along with pro wrestling and MMA rules. You can have triple threat matches, tag team matches, and a battle royal. Also joining them is an elimination rules match, where up to 5 people per team can have one-on-one matches until one team's completely eliminated. This also joins the standard Japanese wrestling game traditions of league and tournament modes. Creation in this game comes in two flavors. You have your standard Create Wrestler, and now you have your Create a Championship mode, which is a feature that wouldn't return to Western shores until SmackDown vs. Raw in 2004. Create a Championship is really basic. You have your choice of many belts to represent your championship, including an unlockable Triple Crown, making this the only game to feature entrances with 3 belts. And also you can defend these belts in exhibition matches. Create a Wrestler is one of the best looking for its time. Compare it to Acclaim, who across 4 3D wrestling games were dealing with a system that had everything from trunks and jeans just painted on. Even in their PS2 games, they still had painted on clothing. Bitching about rivals aside, this is one of the most underrated Create a Wrestler systems. Every asset from the main game is available for use, and if you want your fantasy wrestler to be 7 foot tall, have the face of Misawa, and be dressed like Jushin Liger, you can do it. You also have a vast array of moves to choose from, including unlockable moves from both WrestleMania 2000 and WCW vs NWO Revenge. Where this game really shines is in a logic system which allows you to program which move your wrestler finishes with, as it's not limited to moves performed while in a special state. If you want your wrestler to finish with a roaring elbow strike, it's possible. It makes me wish that games nowadays would implement the same. You can also determine whether or not their primary offense is striking or grappling based, if their strategy includes a lot of defense or attacking, how often they taunt, even to the ferocity of their attacks outside the ring. This is a very cool feature, and makes for one of the best create a wrestler systems in wrestling game history. The Royal Road Succession mode takes you through a year in the life of an All Japan Pro Wrestling competitor. You can choose anyone from the roster and pair them up with a partner of your choice to take on this mode. You'll primarily be a singles wrestler, but will have times where you tag with a partner to take on both divisions at once. This mode is pretty much identical to WrestleMania 2000's season mode, minus the over-the-top theatrics. In this mode you can unlock such legends as Jumbo Tsuruta, Bruiser Brody, Andre the Giant, Terry Funk, and Mil Mascaras, amongst others, and unlock extras for Create a Wrestler and Create a Belt. To be honest, I wasn't a fan of this in WrestleMania 2000, and my opinion hasn't changed since. If you've never experienced Virtual Pro Wrestling 2, you really need to. Find a cartridge and play this to death. If you're adamant that No Mercy is the finest wrestling game ever produced, give this a try and see if you'll convert to the Church of VPW. This is professional wrestling at its finest and really deserves a wider audience. And if you need to be sold on this further, all I'm gonna say is barbed wire baseball bat. Thank you for watching this video. If you want to see more, just hit like and subscribe. If there's a wrestling game you want to see me dig up and dust off, drop it in the comments below. You can follow me on Twitter at WordsandPrism, and you can find much more of my stuff at ViciousPrism.com. So take it easy and I'll catch you next time.